Hello friends, so I'm here to talk to you about Debuff Res, and specifically using it in Abyss. So, Debuff Res is a stat you probably haven't thought of very often, but why did I think of it? It's because I was doing practices with Schwarz and I noticed that there was a point at about 16 seconds at which his hit wouldn't go through because he would get swallowed, and then while he's being swallowed, his cooldown doesn't continue, and therefore when he gets spit out, then he needs to quote-unquote finish his attack, but he's stunned so he can't do anything, and during that time he essentially just lost a full attack cycle and more. So I thought, okay, how can I avoid that? I tried Cooldown. It was okay, like I couldn't really get the good toppings to make it worthwhile. So then I thought in a different direction. What if I tried Debuff Res instead? Because would it make him be chewed less? Or would it at least let him be stunned less? The answer to one is no. It doesn't reduce the amount of time he's chewed. But the answer to two is yes. He will get stunned less. And so that makes his timings a lot more precise. 2 points that are dangerous for survival. And I'll get to that in a sec. But first, I'm going to share this video that I took of when I first started testing this. I had done a run on level 28, and if you see, I'm just going to speed through it. It goes quite smoothly, and this is the point I'm talking about where he gets swallowed. This one was just barely in time. You see his slam happens right before he's swallowed, and he cools down and he gets to do another attack. But I was just throwing together toppings at this point, and I was mostly testing at level 25 where like damage res doesn't matter. But if you've been testing builds, you know that 28 is one of the first spikes in difficulty, and 29 as well. And so you'd think, oh, maybe 15-20% damage res on Werewolf and Schwarz. 5.4% damage res and 2.3% damage res. That survived on level 28. My timings are a little particular. They're a little different than when I first encountered this build, and I will share that in my actual quote-unquote build. But this took me in a direction that I did not expect, because I was just trying to get more damage. But this, it got me more survivability, and that's not something I expected from this. So then I decided, okay, what can I do in order to make it work on higher levels? So then I decided to, hold on, so I decided to refine the build, and let's go to my toppings here. And so I was able to get more damage res on Schwarz and also more cooldown and attack speed. Due to the combination of debuff res and cooldown, this is more uptime with Schwarz or any other tank that gets swallowed than possible with just cooldown alone, including if you used some mix with cooldown toppings. And then there's Werewolf, where he has 20% damage res. He even worked with 15, but I got him up to 20 because I needed more attack speed for the robe. And everyone else is the same across. Oh, wait, no, this is different. Squid, if you're not doing the version of the Abyss build that uses Blackberry, you're probably gonna need to make a new squid for this, because this squid has 9.2 and he needs at least 9.1. And 9.2 is better, and then anything above that is great. And then he also needs attack speed because you want him to have the robe, right? So I'll go through the requirements, but I'd like to state that I'm not making this as a build video. I'm making this as a observational study on Debuff Res on Schwarz. But if you want to try to test it for yourself, I'll talk about the whole build. So Schwarz, what you want is at least 10% debuff res. I think 9 would also work, but 10 is where I found the timing to be the most consistent, and you don't need nearly as much cooldown on top of that. And then damage res, I've gotten to work with 10. It really just depends on how much attack speed you have, and HP as well to a certain extent. Particularly, I have my Schwarz 2 ascendancies higher than Werewolf. I actually used up pretty much all of my soul stone boxes that I got from the BTS event in order to do that, but it was definitely worth it because I only need about 8.7 or so HP in order to go above what Schwarz, or above the HP of Werewolf with this difference in ascendancy. Then next is Werewolf, where you want him to have the highest attack speed, and then the reasonable amount of cooldown, and then damage res, and none of the other stats matter except for whether you want to get more attack or defenses or something. Then is Macaron. I use the same one I use for Avatar. Basically, the more cooldown the better, and then you probably want to get more attack and crit, and mine just has damage res because that's what I could get to get a 24.6 CD myself. Then Squid. For me, this is the same as Avatar, except I switch one topping just so I get a little bit more damage, or this works perfectly fine with my Avatar build as is as well. You want Squid to have the second highest attack speed. So the first has to be Werewolf, because otherwise Schwarz will take the robe not from Squid but from Werewolf. So second highest. And cooldown 9.2, and damage res much higher than what I have, because I won't show it here, but I will upload this video that I'm showing you the recording of right now, so you can see how many times I've messed this up, because this is not a complete build, and that's why I'm saying that this is not a build video. With this much damage res, Squid is very likely to melt in the first few seconds, and so more damage res, but I have no such toppings to get 9.2 CD and high damage res, so this is what I've been testing with. And finally Cotton, you want as much cooldown as possible. I have 24.1, and then try to stack damage res if you can. And also crit, because crits generally help with survivability a lot more than attack. And with that, I will show the build running once, and then I will give commentary on top of it, okay? Let's...
刺激するな。リムール様の通りだ。 刺激するな。刺激するな。刺激するな。
Okay, so with that, I will now talk about the various reasons why Debuff Res works so well. So first of all, I'll talk a little bit about my timing, which is a little bit different from what you would expect. So if you noticed, what I did at the very beginning was I basically juggled all 4 cookies except for Schwarz in order to delay his attack as long as possible. The reason for that is because Schwarz, with his attack and his stun, will actually protect Squid from basically melting away. This step might not be necessary for if you have enough damage res on Squid, but it was an absolute must for me. And it is also a technique I use when I do this, my normal build with Milk, because just why worry about Squid dying when you don't have to? But nonetheless, it's still good to delay Schwarz a bit because you don't want him to do his second attack right before he gets chewed, because then you'll be stuck with the same problem I'm trying to avoid in the first place. So you'll see that he does his thing, the mobs get stunned, and Squid just barely survives, and one of the 2 healers crit at that exact moment, and without that crit he wouldn't have survived. It's always very close. Then the second point is when he gets spit out a lot faster, and so his attacks are almost a full second earlier compared to if you just had cooldown alone. And this is a key juncture. This is the reason why you need at least 9 CD on Squid, because he is going to escape this attack from the Liko monster, and he's going to protect Werewolf and Schwarz from melting away at this critical juncture. And because Schwarz also is triggering his attack at this exact moment, he's also protecting Werewolf by stunning all the mobs for 2 seconds while our healer Macaron gets her cooldown back. And as you can see, it's dangerous, but they make it, and then Cotton makes it, and it's safe from there. And then the other key point is the fact that at this point, his attack actually lands right before he gets chewed, because the next chewing is at the 15-second mark. He completes his attack, not just gets into it and lands it and then he's chewed while he's finishing it, but he actually completes it, and that's impossible with just cooldown alone. And so then, as you can see, Schwarz dies at the end. That's okay. I found that the earlier he dies, the often the better, because then he's not in the way of Werewolf, who gets like a lot more slashes in those last precious seconds, where you have at least 20 Liko mobs. But damage is quite high. And you'll see that Schwarz gets more damage than normal because usually without a very high cooldown, you'll see him closer to 10 million, and if you see him with higher cooldown, maybe you'll see 12 million, so 13 million is quite good. You can get him even higher if he crits. Then Werewolf wasn't bothered too much. He gets almost 80 million, and only person who underperformed a little bit was Squid, who can get up to 30 million, but it is what it is. It's like you get crits and you don't. So as I mentioned, this is an incomplete build, so don't try to follow it. Don't consider this as a tutorial, but think of it just as an extra avenue of testing and just something to think about when you're trying to optimize your builds, not just for Abyss, but this was also a strategy in Master Mode before the BTS cookies came out, where you would give Coco Cookie Debuff Res in order to help her get out of stun lock, in order to give stun immunity to the other cookies. In chapters 1 and 2, where you had the Choco Hogs, the ones that would stun lock your entire party basically, and the only way around it at the time was using Coco Cookie with Debuff Res, or everyone with Debuff Res. But well, yeah, that's all I have to say for today, but I hope this helps people think about new ways to optimize their builds, and thank you for watching, and I hope you have good luck in your Abyss battles.